This is the Noob from Battlefield Friends, and you're listening to the Don't Revive Me Bro podcast, sponsored by Cheap Shark.
Dude, you don't have to yell.
I'm not yelling!
Welcome to the Don't Revive Me Bro Community Spotlight with myself, Pixel Republic.
And me, Peekaboo Bang, and in this series we take a different Battlefield community or group each week and present them to you guys.
This week we're talking with Mark from Tree Mob.
Thanks for joining us, Mark. We really appreciate you coming to talk with us. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Basically, I go by Mark, otherwise known as gawebdev.com, and very glad you guys invited me.
Awesome. It's really good to have you here, Mark. Why don't you tell us a bit about Tree Mob?
Well, basically, we started out of a mod for BF2 back in 2005. Don't know if you guys are familiar with Project Reality. Several of us got together, started playing that back in 2005, hung out for a great deal online, played together, and then of course the announcement of Battlefield 3 came along, and we were definitely excited about that, and essentially that's where it all started at, with the announcement of Battlefield 3.
I have definitely given Project Reality a play or two. My clan actually played that for a little bit. Would there be a word or phrase that summarizes Three Mob's philosophy?
Yeah, sure. I think we've chosen a while back the strength of many, the power of one. That really does a great job of entailing the diversity that is contained in our membership. We have an extremely diverse group. I think I've shared some of the ages with you. While we have a 17 minimum age requirement, we've actually got a lot of older members. Perhaps older is not the right word, but just a very diverse group of players from 17 up into actually some in the 60s. That may not be surprising, as there are a lot of gamers out there that are enjoying the game that are older, for lack of a better descriptor there. But the strength of many and the power of one.
Yeah, it's a nice little motto, nice little phrase. I like it.
I agree. Since your philosophy says the strength of many, the power of one, how large would you say Three Mob is?
Well, that always varies, and we're asked oftentimes to put a number on it. We're upwards of 400 registered in our new Battlefield 4 forums, and obviously all of us aren't on at the same time. As with any community, that varies from time zone and real life things going on or whatever have you. But typically you can go into our TeamSpeak 3 and see anywhere from 15 upwards to 30 guys playing. We've got 3 Battlefield 4 servers. Obviously most of us are based in the States, so typically late afternoon, late night, but from any one given time, probably 30 to 40 online. Obviously on the weekends there's a lot more.
You said you have a Battlefield 2 and Project Reality background. I know both of those were mainly PC. What platforms do you guys play on?
Actually, we're strictly devoted to PC as far as supporting the servers, funding the servers. Our TS3 is primarily used for PC. However, we've got a pretty large presence on social media and in our forums, and we have actually quite a bit of console players that interact with us on that social media and in our forums. Obviously, there's some elements of the game that you can share in those mediums, and it's really universal. But as far as player base, we're strictly PC based, and ironically, and it may not be that ironic, a very large portion of our player base come in from console. That's not uncommon at all. For whatever reason, there's always the argument that it's better on PC, and obviously I'm one of those advocates, but yeah, mainly PC.
Got to give a shout out to that PC master race, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got to be done. And now you were talking about obviously your background with the Battlefield series, but are there any other games outside of the Battlefield series that Tree Mob would play?
That's an interesting question. Obviously, a lot of our membership, primarily FPS. We've got some Counter-Strike. As far as actually hosting game servers other than the Battlefield series, we don't. We're pretty relaxed though, and we've got a few channels that are devoted to other games like Arma. We've got a few guys that play Counter-Strike still, and we're open to that. We have to be. Like I said, we're a very diverse group, but as far as primarily supporting a game and featuring a game, it is strictly Battlefield.
For Tree Mob, are you guys recruiting? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are always looking for teamwork-oriented Battlefield players. And when I say teamwork-oriented, we're a relaxed atmosphere, don't have a lot of rules. We're not a military-styled community. Don't have a lot of rules, but one thing that we do place great emphasis on is teamwork and in-game communication. They have to hook up with us in TS3. And that's big. We look for in-game demeanor in the sense of, do they communicate? And they have to communicate in-game. And most people meet that criteria, fairly easily. Every now and then you get somebody and that's just not a social gamer. And those guys may do better in another community. And that's kind of the only thing that we really hold our recruits accountable to, and we look at that primarily. Skills, those can come later on. We just definitely want people that respect other players and are looking to improve their game and communicate in TS3 and have fun. But we're definitely recruiting. We probably are behind one other community as far as bumping the Battlelog forums for recruitment. I think we've got about 1,700 posts in there, and it's amazing how many people play this game alone. And that's one of our sayings as well, is don't play Battlefield 4 alone. Find a community that utilizes TeamSpeak 3 or another VoIP client and get plugged into a community, because that's our experience and my personal experience, that it just brings so much to the game when you can share it with friends and play it together.
Yeah, I would totally agree there. It makes it much more richer. It's more enjoyable. I do not like playing it on my own when nobody else is on. So yeah, I'd agree with you.
I would like to thirdly agree with that, especially the communication is key bit. It really is when you're playing this game, and it really makes it, like you guys said, more enjoyable when you have a group or community that you can communicate with and share it with, and shoot, move, communicate. Definitely a very important key to the game.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that was one of the challenges that right off the bat when Battlefield 3 came out, in comparison to the other Battlefield series, obviously we didn't have VoIP, and that was a huge issue, especially among those of us that were brought up in that and with that and considered it an integral part of the game. I've foreseen that as a challenge right off, and of course I knew that we would have to utilize TeamSpeak 3 more predominantly than we had in the past in the other Battlefield series, and we worked through that. There were so many people, so many naysayers in the community that said the game's done, the game's finished, they've taken out VoIP, and I knew different. I knew we would have to retrain the way some people were used to playing the series because the VoIP wasn't there, and some of them were new to TS3 because they'd always used the VoIP. But once we helped them make that transition over and had played for several months, it's amazing the strides that were made, and we kind of got over that bump. And of course it's back now in Battlefield 4, and that's an interesting topic as well.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad to see that it's back in game. I do think it's a little funny because, Counter-Strike always had a voice communication system with Roger Wilco that was, in Half-Life forever. but it wasn't very good. And then, then people started using Ventrilo and programs like that, and they've come really a long way since, in that time period. So I'm glad to see, people really utilizing that to their advantage when they play. So on that, what other tips would you provide to new battlefielders? What would you, say to them?
Well, essentially what we say to a lot of new recruits that we pick up, I guess I get a tremendous amount of satisfaction. Sometimes I'm asked, why do you do this? Gosh, you've got to administer the servers. I'm a website developer and designer, and of course that puts me responsible for the site, the forums, and all that stuff. And they say, why do you do that? Well, here's that's an interesting point that you brought up. It's awesome to find someone that has been playing the game alone, and they find our community and they get hooked up with TS3. And so I'm kind of jumping around here, but my suggestion would be find a community, and it doesn't necessarily have to be our community. There are a lot of great communities out there that utilize VoIP and that actually help Battlefield 4 players. There's even, a lot of new players to this series. Some of them, Battlefield 4 is their first Battlefield series, and my biggest advice would be find a community that you feel comfortable in, and hook up with their TS3 or Ventrilo, and make sure, you're comfortable, and be open to feedback, especially if you want to get better. And that's what we tell our guys. We're real good about sharing tactics and things like that, and I've found that that's a really rewarding experience to find even guys back in Battlefield 3 that had been playing alone for months to come in, and they would make comments like, gosh, I can't believe how much I've learned just by being in VoIP with you guys, and you guys sharing tips, tactics, things like that. And that really shortens the learning curve. But that would be my very biggest suggestion would be find a community that you feel comfortable in, get hooked up with a VoIP client, and play with others, and be open to feedback and getting better, and don't get too frustrated. Remember to have fun. This game, for whatever reason, it's always been like this, but it seems like BF4, it's really easy to get frustrated, especially if you're new. And we remind those newer members or newer recruits that don't have that much time in the franchise and the series to really just be patient with the unlocks, the kits, developing their gameplay, and don't take things too seriously, especially when you're learning the ropes and all the maps and all that.
Yeah, definitely. So is there anyone you want to plug, give a shout out to?
Well, actually, we don't have any sponsors, but what I have been very fortunate to have been surrounded by since the beginning is a very strong community. We have what we call VIP contributors, and they actually are very good about stepping up and donating not only their finances to keep things like our websites, our forums, the servers up, but they're also good about giving of their time, and that's a truly valuable asset. That's one of the things we say when we recruit new members is we don't ask that you have to contribute financially, but what we do ask is that you find whatever way is comfortable for you to be able to contribute to the community, whether that's posting in our forums, helping a newer member out. So that's one expectation that we set, but those guys, they're too numerable to name, but we do give shout outs to them in our forum, and it's guys like that make this happen, because when it comes right down to it, if you've got assets like any large community does, websites, forums, servers, it takes money to run the show, and these guys are the real heroes because they give freely, of their time and their finances to make it all possible. And without them, I wouldn't be here, the servers wouldn't be here, and the community wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. The strong support of your members, is what keeps any community, team, anything going, and it's incredibly important. So I'm glad to hear that you have so many members over at 3Mob that are willing to help out and, you know, give of themselves. In closing, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, just again, I thank you guys for asking me to come in and put the spotlight on our community. I'm really excited about Battlefield 4. Obviously, we've got some challenges like with any new game. However, I am very optimistic. I have to be. But I'm optimistic. We're making some improvements, some patches and things like that. And, you know, I'm really excited about where this series is going. And a huge shout out to all the organized communities, because it's like I've told the developers at DICE and some even the community manager, and I'll remind them from time to time and do it in a polite yet non-apologetic way, and that is the community is the heart and soul of Battlefield series gaming. It's the communities that bring people together, hold people together, and foster the community. That's the heart of Battlefield series, and it's no different in Battlefield 4. So my hat's off, and I salute those out there, those leaders. Don't revive me, bro. I remember you guys, you know, reading about you very early on in Battlefield 3, and just intuitively knowing that you guys would play a great role in the cohesiveness of the community. People like Level, and it's just, you know, it's an awesome community. It really is, and I'm looking forward to it. And again, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on and chatting with us.
And that will do it for this week. We really appreciate Mark coming on the show to talk to us about 3Mob.
We will be taking a break until after the new year, where we will bring you more Don't Revive Me Bro community spotlights from both Pixel Republic and myself, Peekaboo Bang. Have a happy and safe holiday season.
And remember to check out our sponsors, cheapshark.com, for price comparisons on all major titles on all major platforms. cheapshark.com.